I thought this was just going to be like a unnecessary spin-off show.
We've got our boys, pops, and comments back there to let the audience know who have been paying close attention to the background that we love the boys.
I have to say, I went into this wanting to not like it.
Starting out in this new world, Gen V, it just feels fresh. Like I said, it feels like season one of the boys again.
The special effects look great. The powers look great. They're being used frequently. We're seeing a lot of powers. Welcome to Backseat Directing,
Where we talk about movies, TV shows, comics, and more.
We're your hosts,
Andrew.
and Aaron.
And we put out new episodes every Monday and Thursday.
And on this episode, we're talking about Gen V.
3, 2, 1.
Action. Man, this last month has been crazy. We've only filmed twice in the last month, which normally we're filming every single week. So I'm very proud of us for nailing that intro. First try.
I knew we were going to do it. Never had doubt. Never had doubt.
First try. I don't think we've ever messed up the intro, actually.
I mean, far be it from me to smack talk ourselves. We've nailed that intro 10 out of 10 times.
Because we're professionals.
Look, we're profesh.
That's right.
So today we're talking about Gen V, which slapped down onto Prime Video.
Dude, it snuck up on me.
On
It
Friday.
snuck up on me.
Yeah. So this show is a spinoff from The Boys, which obviously you can see over my head here. If you're watching on video, we've got our boys, pops, and comments back there to let the audience know who have been paying close attention to the background that we love The Boys. And I'm sure we've said it on more than one occasion that we love The Boys.
Especially in episodes with Justin. He's brought it up a few times, how much he likes The Boys.
But even still, us talking about it, I don't think either of us were necessarily super excited for Gen V.
Yeah, no, I thought this was just going to be like a unnecessary spin-off show to where I was not going to be interested in the characters because I'm already so invested in the main characters from the main show that I wouldn't really care about these new characters because they just wouldn't get me invested. And I also thought like, well, if they're making this, why can't they just put more of resources into The Boys and make the last season or this next season of The Boys even better? You know, like something that we've always complained about The Boys, it's probably its only knock is like, we just don't get to see powers a lot.
Which I feel like is actually a strength of Gen V. I've seen them using powers a lot in this show.
And it wasn't cheesy and it looked really, really, really good.
Yeah, and it's not like forced either. Like you said, that lack of...
It just felt natural.
When Andre first appeared, he is like walking onto the fight in the arena and he just like uses telekinesis to bring the water bottle to his hand. And I was like, damn, I like this guy. Yeah. Like something about this that like... The use of the powers in everyday life is so cool.
I have to say, I went into this wanting to not like it.
Really?
Yeah, because I was like, why? Why can't they just invest in the main thing and make it better, you know? Like, but I'm in on it, man. I'm in on it.
Yeah, no, I think that they like... To me, the first season of Gen V so far feels like the first season of The Boys. Like, the universe of The Boys is fantastic, but I think that there's a lot of issues in the writing of The Boys where, like, they're kind of trapped in cycles and things move really slow in terms of the plot, not a lot of powers. Sometimes in whole episodes, not a lot of action.
I feel like The Boys, things move at a fast pace, like, episode to episode, but then when you, like, zoom out, you're like, wait a second. Not a lot has actually happened.
Yeah, it's... For me, my frustrating thing with The Boys is like I feel like they kind of write themselves into a hole where they're like worried that if they kill Homelander, they won't have a show. Worried that if Homelander like does too much damage to the boys themselves, then they won't have a show.
Yeah.
So like it feels like, especially having read the comics, I haven't read all the comics, but in the comics they using Compound V for The Boys is like a given. It's like very early, and they wait till season 3 of The Boys to introduce that aspect to the story. So like.
I feel like that's a good idea.
Having said that, spoiler though, heads up, we are going to spoil the first 3 episodes of Gen V.
I feel like you're not watching Gen V
if you haven't watched The Boys, but
so
I do want to say like we're going to spoil Gen V too. It's not spoiler free review.
I mean, we only have smart people watch our show, so I'm sure everyone who's watching has got it all figured out.
Yeah, I'm sure that they're ahead of the game. They clicked on Gen V review and they were like, they're probably going to review Gen V and talk about the episode.
Exactly. Andrew, you are Knuff. But you do have a little bit of fluff on your chin.
That's where I'm keeping it.
Okay.
I like it right there.
I just wanted to let you know.
That's my kin fluff.
I like it.
So let's start with like setting up the show though? Gen V, like what are the ratings and all that good stuff? Do you have it pulled up?
Yeah, right now on IMDb, as like the season itself, it's got an 8.1 out of 10. Let's see if they got it broken down by episode here.
8.1 is an astounding score at IMDb.
Yep. So first episode has an 8.2 on IMDb. The second episode has a 7.7 out of 10. And then the third jumps back up 8.3, which is the highest of the season so far. So like we said, these all dropped September 29th. And it was the first 3 episodes that came out at once.
Yeah, and we're going to get weekly episodes coming out on Fridays now, by the way. So if you're curious, that's when you expect new episodes. Episode 4 is going to be coming out the upcoming Friday.
Looks like there's going to be 8 episodes for the season.
Yeah, man, shows are so short now. It's frustrating.
I know, but at the same time, it's kind of nice, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't have to be drawn out. Like, that was a big complaint about all the Disney shows. And some of them weren't even that long.
Some of them are like 6 episodes and stuff.
Yeah, but it still feels right.
But this is normally where Aaron would also do the revenue and things like that, but for TV shows we don't really have that information. So
yeah, it's kind of hard to really figure out how much they're putting into it, especially when it's going on a streaming service,
and even harder to find out how much money it's made.
Right. It seems though that they've put in a lot of resources into this. Like we said earlier, the special effects look great, the powers look great, they're being used frequently. We're seeing a lot of powers, especially in that first episode. There's a fight at the end, and it felt long, right? That fight.
Yeah.
Especially compared to other fights that we saw in the early seasons of The Boys. Like, I feel like there's only a few fights and they don't happen that long because they're not showing a lot of powers all the time. But also the cinematography, beautiful.
Yeah, amazing.
And we'll dive more into that, but they're putting resources into this show.
Yeah. I think the one thing that you can always applaud these creators and producers for is their use of practical effects. Like when they have the people who shrink down, whether it be little cricket or a termite, they use practical effects. Like you can see the actor playing termite surrounded by like giant piles of sand to be the cocaine in The Boys. They're doing the same thing. That's why the scenes with little cricket look so good, because they're mixing practical and special effects.
And your favorite one was when she was hugging the penis, right?
Yeah, that was practical. They had a giant penis for that scene. No, but I'm sure it was still practical though. Like it was practical.
It looked like
made it. Yeah,
it looked like a prosthetic. Like it was. She was actually interacting with it.
But that's why all their scenes look so phenomenal in terms of special effects.
Yeah.
But so now let's get into who's in front of and behind the camera. I'll go over this pretty quick. The creators for Gen V is Evan Goldberg, Eric Kripke, Craig Robinson. Eric Kripke, the creator of The Boys. Now we could get into specifics, but every episode when it comes to TV has different individual directors, cinematographers, people on all those roles. So I'm just going to do the stars and the directors. The directors for the first 3 episodes is Nelson Craig for episodes 1 and 2, and Philip Segresia for episode 3. Now the stars, this cast is really, really cool. Jazz Sinclair is Marie Moreau, or Bloody Marie. Chance Perdomo is Andre Anderson, who you might recognize from Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. He plays Ambrose. Lizzie Broadway is Emma Meyer / Little Cricket. Maddie Phillips is Kate Dunlap. London Thor and Derek Luh both play Jordan Lee, which is interesting because usually you have one actor playing two people rather than 2 actors playing 1 person. So that is a really, really interesting role that I want to talk about more.
They look very similar.
Their last names are different. I almost would have expected them to be like siblings related.
They look like the same person on screen.
Something
just
about
male and female version.
And maybe like the performance aspect too makes them just seem like they're
acting
carrying the same personality. Yeah,
exactly.
Like I almost would have thought they were fraternal twins.
Yeah.
But Asa German is Sam Riordan, and Shelley Kahn as Dean and Dira Shetty. Patrick Schwarzenegger as Golden Boy. Golden Boy is Sam Riordan's brother. Interestingly, if you're thinking about the name, yes, that is Arnold Schwarzenegger's son. And Clancy Brown is Professor Brinkerhoff. Now, obviously, there's much more people involved in the cast, especially a TV show with multi-episodes, but these are the main stars of the show. Who are you impressed by? Who's your favorite performance? Who's your favorite character?
Right away, Marie caught my eye, right? Because, again, I was going into this thinking that I wasn't going to be invested in any of these characters. And then getting her backstory like laid out in front of us like that, where she ended up killing her parents in a very dramatic fashion. It's like, oh, dang. Yeah, I feel for her.
It's a good and very much in The Boys fashion way of starting their show.
Yeah.
Like the
It was fast. It was right to the point.
It's like when Robin dies in season 1.
Yeah.
Just like an explosion of blood and very like shocking to the senses.
And at this point,
Traumatic.
like when I first watched The Boys, it's like you didn't quite know what to expect. You know, it kind of flipped this genre on its head. But now I'm going into Gen V expecting all this stuff, and it still surprises me.
Yeah, I think I've gotten to the point in The Boys season 2 and 3 where it's a little stale. Like people complain like, oh, The Boys is just shock value over content. I don't agree with that. But
Yeah.
I feel like I've started to get a little numb to their shock factor. Whereas like starting out in this new world, Gen V, it just feels fresh. Like I said, it feels like season 1 of The Boys again. It feels like the world they crafted is so good that starting anew with new characters just makes it feel like that thrill of season 1 again.
Yeah.
Where everything's new, but still in this amazing world they created.
It caught me by surprise, and like you know that it was going to happen, but it was like okay, this is the world that we're in.
I think something about the fresh characters makes it have like this new feeling, despite the fact that it's very similar to the tone of The Boys. It's the same.
Dude, they gave us her backstory in such an efficient way, right? Like literally in the first 15 minutes, we've known everything that we need to know about her to present day. You know, they show us how she got her powers as a kid, the tragedy that happened that drives her, the hard place that she was when she was in like the, I don't know, the
Red River
place.
Institute. I had to look this up.
Yeah.
Because I was like, no, I'm not going to remember what this place is called.
And then boom, now we're in this college where all these superheroes are. She wants to be in the top 10, blah, blah, blah. And it's like that happened so quick. It was efficient. Like we didn't have to spend a whole episode on her backstory.
But speaking of those two settings, though, one, the Red River Institute, there's a fun fact I did not notice, but I saw this online. There's a scene in season 3 of The Boys, I believe it is, where Huey goes to the Red River Institute because he's trying to do research on Nadia because he knew she grew up in the orphanage, and he's trying to find out her backstory. So he's looking for Nadia's profile in the Red River Institute computer. And as he's scrolling by, you can see Marie in there. It says Marie M with the picture of Jess Sinclair. So they
With her?
Yeah, they hinted at her in season 3 of The Boys.
So this has been in production for a long
Been in
time.
the works. They knew what they were doing. And then an interesting fact.
Good for them. I love it when they think ahead like that.
Oh, dude,
you
the
know,
detail
like
is so rich.
let's go.
Details so rich. But don't you think it's cool how also the school, Godolkin University, their T-shirt, like a lot of colleges, is like an abbreviated version of the name. It's God U. It's like they're literally telling the students, you are gods.
Yeah.
Like, God U. It's like really indicative of the world that they're living in, where like the heroes are like put up on this pedestal and oh, they're so special. Like I think that was a really clever little thing that they put in the show. They're all walking around wearing jackets that say God U.
Right. Someone else who stood out to me is Emma, which is
Lizzie Broadway.
Yep. And what's her superhero name? Little Cricket. Yeah.
Yeah, she's in the performing arts track. So like that's her YouTube personality.
Like at first I was like, oh no, the annoying roommate. I've seen this before. Don't really like this.
Yeah. She's going to be like the peppy roommate who's like pushing her in the direction of the plot, but she's so much really more than that.
Yeah.
In my opinion, best actor hands down in the show.
Yeah, she's really good.
Far from what I've seen. I
She
think
reminds me of like Florence Pugh a little bit. Doesn't she kind of look like her a little bit?
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
But also like in terms of them both being very talented, like I think she's the one who's blown me away the most in the like her expressing her kind of denial about her situation where everyone's pointing fingers at her, telling her that she has an eating disorder, but it's like, no, it's just my power. Like
And then
the
she's
layers
like,
to that performance.
Yeah. And she's like, well, you cut yourself to Marie.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, but I'm just using my powers. She's like, thank you.
Well, this brings me to an interesting point that I was thinking out about the show, where all of the heroes in Gen V are archetypes of different personalities, whether it be high school or college. Their powers as soups reflect those archetypes of the negative traits related to them. So Golden Boy is the Golden Boy. He's, the jock, the high school athlete. Everybody loves him, but his power is literally flying too close to the sun and getting burned, which ultimately happens at the end of the first episode. And then you've got the character who's gender fluid, whose superpower is literally their gender identity, which is a powerful and really cool statement by the writers of The Boys. Like their gender identity is their power. And very well displayed in my opinion. They're like my favorite character, despite the fact that Lizzie Broadway is my favorite performer in the show. Yeah. And then you've got the character with the eating disorder. She wants everybody to like her. She's, you know, the entertainment person. She's on social media, but behind the scenes, her superpower is that she is bulimic in order to get small, in order to make people like her. So you've got like the need for attention and approval, and her negative trait reflecting her archetype as like a student at a school. Marie is the loner whose superpower is self-harm. And am I missing anybody? Then you've got the Miss Popular whose superpower is influencing people.
Right.
And then Ambrose is like the slack Ambrose. That's his character in Chilling Adventures. Andre Anderson, his power is he's like the lazy slacker whose power is telekinesis. He can bring things to him and draw items to his hand. Like his power is basically a reflection of his laziness. So all of their powers are reflections of their negative traits / archetypes, which I think is like chef's kiss. And
it gives all the characters this depth to them that I feel like we don't get in spin-off shows very often, you know? Like, I feel like spin-off shows really are just like a money grab.
Well, it's not treated, this show's not treated to bolster up the boys. It's like its own good show.
Yeah.
And there might be overlap, which I hope. I was excited for Golden Boy to join the Seven, and I thought,
me too.
We'll get the backstory on this character here, and then it'll be valuable when we get to season 4 of The Boys, and he's in the Seven.
I wanted to see him go with like kind of clash with Homelander a
but
bit.
then we know it doesn't ultimately go that route. I mean, he's treated like he could have. Brinkerhoff tells him that he could be like the next Homelander, but do you think he had that kind of strength to like rival Homelander? I feel like Homelander would have squished him. Maybe I thought he meant maybe in terms of personality, like in terms of popularity, I guess.
Yeah, so it's hard to tell because we only got literally one episode with him, right? But he was ranked #1 in the school, and it seems like pretty competitive to get to #1.
But we obviously also know why Jordan Lee isn't #1. Like we know the politics surrounding them not being #1, but they do lose a fight to Golden Boy as well. So then you kind of see maybe that there is more strength.
It seemed like all the other characters were really afraid of Golden Boy in kind of the same way that a lot of the other heroes are afraid of Homelander. And it's hard to tell if he could go up against Homelander because we saw he ended his own life. You know, we didn't see him get beat, but we also didn't see him like dominate anyone else really either, besides in like that little fight in the beginning that was one of those sporting events or whatever. But he kind of seemed like he was going up against a subpar opponent, you know, like we barely got to see his powers. He was just like healed really fast. So I don't know. I feel like they definitely could have made it to where he could be, you know, like if he can fly. We don't know his strength scale. I feel like that's the missing point.
We also don't know the strength of his flames. Like he's basically the Boys version of the Human Torch, and the Human Torch can like go supernova. Like he could like destroy Earth. Like so we don't know to what extent his flame powers go either. You know, because obviously he's invulnerable. He's super strong. We see him use the flames against Jordan Lee, but like doesn't.
You'd have to think that he'd be able to absorb Homelander's laser. You know, like he seems like he can take a hit, so like he's got to be pretty strong too. So I feel like it would have been like a good opponent, you know. Doesn't mean he would necessarily win. I mean, it seems like Homelander has a little bit more experience. He's been at the top for so long, you know. But maybe that's what gives Golden Boy an edge.
I mean,
Homelander's been at the top for so long.
We have seen Homelander bleed now with his fight versus Queen Maeve. I mean, Maeve's no slouch either. She obviously made it to the 7, and she's one of the other most feared supes in the show. So there's a lot of strength there. But there's just not a lot of power scaling in the Boys, other than we see everyone afraid of Homelander, and Homelander just like pinning Starlight to the elevator with ease, like he could just end Starlight's life. And we know how strong Starlight is. We've seen her like tank a bullet from a 50 cal like at one point in the show.
Yeah. Her powers confuse me sometimes. Sometimes they make her seem really weak, and sometimes they make her seem really strong.
She got a big power up at the end of season 3, though.
Right. Yeah.
The ability to fly.
So I want to go back to the Gen V and kind of talk about the story. So do you want to kind of recap the first 3 episodes real quick?
Sure. So the opening of episode 1 of Gen V, we see Marie Moreau accidentally killing both of her parents, which lands her in the Red River Institute where
she found out her powers.
Yes, she discovered her powers, leading her to accidentally kill her parents. Ironically, her parents were the one who gave her powers. But unlike most soups, she didn't get her powers as a child. They initiated when she hit puberty. So After
Which isn't that interesting? Like she didn't get her blood powers until she bled.
which maybe is linked to why. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why she didn't. Specifically, her power was linked to that.
Right.
So the this leads to her being in the orphanage where she's not adopted until she's 18. She applies and gets into Godolkin University. Now at Godolkin, she kind of struggles to get onto the crime fighting track. Brinkerhoff doesn't want her on there, but she befriends like this tight group of people that'll be our main characters of the show. Andre Anderson with the telekinetic powers, Golden Boy with the Human Torch powers, Kate Dunlap with the persuasion powers, and Jordan Lee with the ability to transfer, metamorphosize, and also clearly some invulnerability and super strength. And so she befriends them, but then this secretive plot unveils itself where Brinkerhoff has been involved with this place called The Woods, where they're keeping students underneath the school, experimenting on them. And Golden Boy's brother, we know to be down there in that experimentation lab. So Golden Boy attacks and kills Brinkerhoff, and then subsequently kills himself after giving a secret message to his close friend, Andre Anderson. The show after that starts up in episode 2, where Andre and Kate are trying to investigate the death of Golden Boy, find out why he killed himself, and unveiling the conspiracy of The Woods. Now, Marie is kind of dealing with the aftermath of being treated as this hero because they would rather give her the credit for defeating Golden Boy than actually show that Jordan Lee is the one who fought Golden Boy because of the gender politics we talked about before. They don't think that the Bible Belt of America basically is ready to accept there's obviously a lot of heavy.
They say like Dallas and Orlando, right?
Yeah, they're like they're not going to accept. They say gender fluid, or they might use another term for it, but basically Jordan Lee switches between genders, and that's why they think politically the world's not going to accept them as number one.
Yeah.
So. What an interesting character. God dang, what good writing, and so well performed too. That's, like I said, my favorite character in the show so far. Once they showed the dynamic with the parents, I got even more like involved in the character with episode 3. So episode 3, we get more development as they find out where Sam Riordan is. They find out about The Woods, and now we have this big banquet where we're getting to see the dynamic between all the kids and their parents. We're getting to see Jordan Lee's involvement with their parents. We're getting to see Emma Little Cricket's relationship with her mom, which gives us one of the best scenes in the show so far, in my opinion, where she gets to tell her mom off. And then Andres talks with Emma and gets Emma to shrink down and go into this lab they've discovered, sneak into the woods. And she meets Sam. They have this kind of cute little relationship. Sam is schizophrenic, so he's like an interesting character. He's not sure if he's hearing voices or she's real, but they form kind of this quick connection where they seem like they have a little bit of a bond. And at the very end of that episode, the agents rush in and they seem like they've caught Little Cricket popping out of the one agent's ear after killing him. So we don't know where they're going to go from there, but there's a lot of little plot points in there that I skipped over. You've got Emma getting outed for her power being linked to bulimia, and the whole dynamic there with the supposed friend who's betrayed her. We've got Marie grappling with fame and building a relationship with the dean, Indira Shetty, who's kind of endearing herself to Marie because she seems to want to build her up to potentially be the first freshman to ever be number 1. For some reason, she seems very interested in Marie. I think she thinks she'll pull well, with audiences. She mentions kind of like the race politics of building up a black hero. So we've got all these corrupt individuals kind of as seeds in the plot right now.
And something that's really good about the writing is that all these subplots help move the narrative of the whole story.
Yeah.
And it does so really well.
So Marie's main goal is to become like a great hero, whether it's number 1 or join. She wants to join the 7, seems like it's the goal right now, because she wants to convince her sister that she's not a monster. She wants to have the power and resources to find her sister and be able to go talk to her. So she seems like she's kind of grappling with a lot of guilt too, like maybe like absolving herself in her own eyes and not just her sister's as well. So she makes a really good point too, where she's willing to step on other people to reach her goal, but also pointing out the fact that all those people were willing to step on her by the end of the first episode. They were going to let her take the fall and get kicked out of school for the person that Andre accidentally almost killed at the club.
And she didn't let that go, which is something that I think is very important. When people betrayed you, you don't just bat an eye and be like, oh yeah, like I'll help you find out why he killed himself. Like, I'll help you solve this mystery. She was hesitant. She didn't want to work with these guys. They did her wrong.
But now she's wronged them too, and she's also kind of like even Steven, you know?
Right.
So she's not like, I'll never speak to them again. It's a very like middle ground, real world approach where she's like, she goes and apologizes to Kate about what happened to Golden Boy, and she's like, oh, like you don't really know him, and she's like, you guys screwed me over. Like you weren't gonna do anything.
Yeah, there's conflict between the characters, but then there's also internal conflict within the characters.
Yeah, it's very realistically written, which is like the whole point of The Boys, right? It's like realistic people in a world with powers. How would they act?
Yeah.
And like you've got people on very middle ground people like Marie, who wants to be a hero for her own reasons. And maybe she's willing to play the game of Vought to get to where she needs to be. But Marie definitely still seems like somebody who is a good person and wants to help people. You know, it's not like as black and white as like she's a villain or she's like as righteous as Superman or Captain America.
Right.
So it's very, very well written in that sense. And I think Marie Moreau is one of the more interesting characters in the whole Boys universe. But for me, my favorite characters are still Jordan Lee, and I really like Andre Anderson, and I really like Emma. So I'm just waiting. I think Marie has a little bit of that main character energy, where the main character is sometimes they have like a bland kind of arc, you know, like her arc is kind of middle ground right now. So I'm waiting for them to like do something more drastic with.
I feel like there's not necessarily anything wrong with that because of how well everything else is being done.
But like if she like in episode was it 2 or 3? In the episode where she has the interview, if she like took that staunch moral high ground and was like told the truth about Jordan Lee and like stood up on that platform and was like, if I say it, they have to roll with it if it's on the live broadcast. That would have been more interesting for me, like for a character, but they're like going like this complicated character, dark route.
Yeah, I see where you're going where like that would be interesting, but I think it's also interesting the route that they went because she has this goal that she's had for ever since her powers came on to like prove to herself, to prove to her sister, to get to the 7, show that she is in fact a good person. She didn't mean to kill her parents. She wants that redemption. So like she has this opportunity to kind of work her way up, and she's kind of falling in line with the system, even though the system isn't a good system.
Yeah.
And hopefully by the end of the season, we get to see her kind of break out of that.
But this is my problem with the Boys world where they write themselves into a corner is that everybody plays the Vought game. And if everybody keeps playing the Vought game, then nothing drastic will ever happen in the plot.
That's so realistic, right? Like in corporations, you know, in business, like that's how it is in the real world. Like the people at the top, like people kiss butt to get up there, you know, like it's stupid, but it's real.
The difference, though, is that Starlight is finally not playing the Vought game by season 3 of the show. It took a long time, though.
But I feel like that's satisfying now. Like, if she did it in season 1, like, okay, now what in season 3?
But that's their job to come up with something, though. Like, I don't know. I just feel like
they did. They came up with that.
It's very slow. I feel like I'm not very satisfied with season 2 and 3 of The Boys, especially season 2. 3 was a lot more enjoyable for me. I really generally can't remember a lot from season 2.
Yeah, they all kind of mesh together for me because, you know, I'm not great with comprehension and
season
remembering
1
things.
Is phenomenal. Season 1's so good.
Season 1's good. It kind of because it was new. It was refreshing, you know. So it's hard to follow up. I mean, a lot of times the first movie in a trilogy or something is the better one, you know. Like it's hard to improve upon something that was already really good.
Yeah, you're absolutely not wrong.
Before we continue talking about Gen V, I wanted to take a minute to say thank you to everyone who watches and supports our show. It means the world to us. We put in a lot of work into this podcast, and it's awesome that people are enjoying it. People are joining the conversation in the comments and showing us support by sharing our episodes with friends and stuff. That means the world to us. We really appreciate it. Again, we post new episodes every Monday and Thursday. So hit subscribe, hit that bell button so you always stay up to date. We have some exciting things coming out soon. I know the D&D episode. It's been a while. We were teasing it for a while. We did a intro to D&D full episode with Kaylee, who's our DM, and now like where is it? It's coming. Just be
be there. It'll
patient.
be there.
It's on its way. Okay.
Aaron's hard.
It's on its way.
It's gonna be good quality. I've seen some of it, but seriously, thank you guys so much for listening. With that said, we do want to kind of get into talking about the cinematography aspect of the show, which Aaron's mentioned that he's really enjoyed.
Yeah.
So, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah. When we rate movies, we have like different categories that we rate, and part of that, or one of them, is story, which we kind of just talked about a lot. We also talk about acting, which we've already went over, like some of our favorite characters and performances from the show Gen V. And now I want to talk about the cinematography. So basically the way that we encapsulate this column, this way of rating, is everything visual, from the camera setup, the lighting, the composition, but then also like the effects, the special effects, the VFX, the in-camera effects, the camera movement. That's something that Andrew really enjoys, is when there's dynamic camera movement. So this show, right away, I was like, oh, this is high produced. The lighting looked fantastic. The color grade is awesome.
Yeah, The Boys kind of has a signature like darker and like desaturated look.
But it's like vivid at the same time. Like, how do they do that? It's just so good. You know, like every shot you could take a picture of and be like, man, that is beautiful.
I love the way that they shoot blood. The blood in the Boys is very dark. Like, like a lot of times in movies, they'll make blood darker than it would even look actually in real life to make it look more gritty and like less cartoonish. And that's what they do here, is that the blood is just this dark red. Like it's very, when Golden Boy explodes, or when Cricket comes out of that agent's ear at the end of the 3rd episode covered in blood, which is a signature of the Boys, is covering people in blood. So they say, I think at one point, or
even Maria's powers, flinging blood around.
Yeah, literally constantly. Yeah. I think at one point the guy who plays Huey says that like they have like a joke about it of like, they just get covered in buckets of blood, like whenever they're shooting the Boys, like a couple times a season, you know? Yeah. Especially doing shots more than once. They're blasting blood on him. Like,
but not only do you see the blood, but you also see like flesh pieces.
Oh yeah, dude. It's how haunting is it when Andre has to see like a chunk of his friend that they missed on the pavement stuck in between the cracks. Like, just imagine.
It like makes you cringe, you know? Like when they're like sweeping it all up, it's like, oh.
I think these do kind of overlap, but my favorite thing about the show, aside from the writing and the acting, which are phenomenal, is actually the set design and the production for me over the cinematography. Like I said, they do kind of overlap, like what goes in the shot and whatnot.
Yeah, sure.
But the set design and production in this show is just so cool. Like the world building and the Easter eggs, the amount of stuff they include when you look in the background, it's just like posters for Dawn of the Seven and like A-Train's drinks over here. And like, there's just so much thought and detail into it. Or like the statue of Homelander, like, or the statue of like other people. I think there's a Polarity statue. But they have like these bronze statues in front of the schools. There's like the Crimson Countess Performing Arts Center and the Lamplighter crime fighting school. Like their world building is amazing, and it's just so good at like connecting you and reminding you that exists in the same worlds of the Boys, reminding you of the Boys, making you think about season 4, when's it going to come out. And there's so many minute details, whether it be references to the comics or the original Boys show. The comics themselves for the Boys, they diverge quite a bit. Even in the Boys, they diverge a ton. It's the same source foundation, but it's like very different storyline, and the characters often act different or appear different than in the comics. Whereas in Gen V, these are completely original characters. So they exist in the world of the Boys, but none of them, Godolkin University, none of it exists. The closest thing I would say is that in the Boys comics, there's a parody of the X-Men called the G-Men, and the G-Men are kind of like Godolkin University, because the X-Men are like, they go to the Xavier Mansion and they go to school there. So that's kind of similar, but like it's totally different characters. So I think that this gives them the chance to just really play with it and do whatever they want. And they've taken full advantage of like giving Little Cricket her own YouTube show. And like, she's got all these little outfits on the wall that are like tiny outfits for her to wear when she shrinks herself down. Like, I love it. It's so much entertainment value.
Something else that goes into this category is editing. And it's sometimes hard to notice good editing you know, because you're involved in the story and the editing's helping push the story, but it's really easy to notice bad editing.
Yeah.
You know, like when it looked like a drastic cut, when it's like kind of breaking the 180 rule where like the camera's on one side and then flips the other side. It's kind of hard to keep track of where you're at, especially in fight scenes when they cut too much. I think they do a really good job of editing this TV show. You know, like they show all the powers. We know that it's a TV show, but they choose to film and cut at a good time. You know,
I
like
think a hard part about editing a show like this where there's multiple concurrent stories, and I think it's more common in shows than in movies, is keeping the audience equally interested in different storylines.
Yeah.
At no point in watching Gen V am I like, I'm bored of this part with Andre and Kate. Like, when am I?
Yeah, I
gonna get
want
back to
Marie
Marie?
back on. Yeah.
I never feel like that, and that is a very strong strength
Mm-hmm.
of a TV show is when they can keep you interested in every different character storyline. I'm equally interested in Jordan Lee as I am watching Andre and Kate.
Yeah, to expand on the editing, they really bring you into the world, especially in The Boys as well, when they do these little like cuts where they switch the ratio, the aspect ratio, and they do like a little commercial that would be played in the real world. Like they did one for the university, like a welcome video. And I make a lot of like corporate videos and stuff. And I was like, dang, they're doing a fantastic job at this. Like, this is very high produced. It's like, it's crazy. Like it's more produced than some of the productions that I've done. And I've done some pretty high productions for like corporate commercials. And it's like,
Brag.
they did it so good though. They had the logo in the lower thirds, which is, I hate doing it, but for some reason these companies like it there. Like they had her like narrating the story, but they showed her like walking through the school and stuff. And
It's also a brilliant work of parody, like just the way that they're like trying so hard to shoehorn in and like focus on their like diversity and all this stuff. Like how Jordan Lee was like, yeah, I'm in the admissions video, but like to show that they're pro LGBTQ plus or what have you. So
it's to push their agenda.
Yeah, that parody is very accurate and good. That's what you'll see. You go watch any university, I guarantee you it looks just like the one that they showed. And like you said, even something as simple as switching the aspect ratio is a perfect way to let us know and cue us in. As an audience member, we're immediately like, oh, we're watching a video within the show.
Right. Or they show a lot of social media stuff. They do that within The Boys as well. But
messages on the screen.
Yeah, it's just another way to like, oh, something's different from what I was just looking at, to where it like brings you in more.
Yeah, like when you see Little Cricket is on her YouTube channel, like they have that outline of the
like,
video.
Exactly. Or like when they're doing the news interviews, like beforehand, it's in that wide aspect ratio. And then when they like start the interviews, it's back to the normal ratio that you would see on like a news channel, like
the wide screen. I love
it's
widescreen.
beautiful.
It's so cinematic.
It's beautiful.
I don't know why. I don't know what it is. I don't know the science behind it, but my eyes are like, I'm watching something good right now.
Yeah.
It's in widescreen.
Yeah. I was just editing a like ultra widescreen video last week, and then I went back to the normal ratio, and I was like, man, this video right here looks like trash.
You were in ultra wide. That's primo. It just fits so much.
Yeah,
it's just the landscape captures so much.
Like that's how our eyes see. We see in like a horizontal plane. Like I can see so much over here than I can above me. Like
full screen feels a little bit unnatural.
Yeah,
like, it works for some stories. Like it's like IMAX, I think, uses full screen because it wants to capture all that.
Yeah.
But it just feels different, It
Yeah.
feels like a little off to me.
It's nice that it cuts off like some of the top and bottom because it helps you like zone in, And a lot of times when they're using a wide aspect ratio like that, you're using an anamorphic lens, which is basically to put in like two frames next to each other, and then it stretches it out, so you get like double the information. And when you're using an anamorphic lens, like the sides are typically blurred, so like it really gives you this like really nice focal point in the frame, and it just looks great.
You should watch
especially
Past
with
Lives.
color grading and the lighting that they're doing.
You should watch Past Lives. That movie's really beautifully shot. It's like a 24 movie. It came out this year, and I was watching it like I feel like this is an anamorphic lens, but I don't know enough about cameras like to confirm it visually. So like that movie it's just really, really stunning the way that it's shot. Something about it.
I hope one day I get to use an anamorphic lens because they look phenomenal.
If you're wondering, we always talk about the Batman being shot because it's shot with anamorphic lenses, and it's such a chef's kiss, beautiful movie.
Movie that came out recently, The Creator, also shot with that. They got a 70s anamorphic lens because the director wanted it to look like the movies that used to inspire him. And then they also shot it on a $4,000 Sony camera, which
$4,000 for a movie of that size.
Yeah, crazy. Normally they're like $20,000 cameras.
When you see the scale and scope of the movie, and you're thinking this was shot with a $4,000 camera, you're like, wow, that's like a thrift store camera for the scale of this movie and the amount of special effects. And
while we're talking about like this ultra wide ratio and stuff, like they filmed it in even wider than normal. So in order to see the full like movie, you have to go to these like X theaters or something where they have like additional screens on the side. So it's kind of like you have 3 monitors, like the normal theater, and then you have another LED panel on each side. So you like get to see the whole frame. So like if you wanted to see more of the creator, you can go to one of those theaters and see that like stretched out, which is really cool. And if you make a TikTok, you can look up the name of that actual theater and put it right here.
After the fact.
Yeah.
So my question for you then, going forward, after talking about the cinematography, I wanted to hear what your top favorite characters are. Like if you had to do off the cuff your top 3 so far. It's early.
In the show or in the universe?
In the show. Billy Butcher's going up there if you're doing the universe.
Yeah.
Billy Butcher.
Also, I like Homelander too.
He's just an interesting character.
I feel like
he's lost a little bit of stock for
great
me
villain
since season 1, but
yeah, I see where you're coming from. I feel like just season 1 it does carry it.
After watching 3 seasons, I'm like, how is this guy not just won yet?
Yeah.
Like, look at all the advantage he has.
Politics.
Such a weak thing to hold somebody like that back.
Yeah, but
somebody with that much power.
Yeah.
Like he says so many times on the show, he's like, yeah, I mean, I like being loved. I don't need to. I'll just destroy the Pentagon or whatever. Like,
but then he did in the last season 3.
He's taken over. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But how is he just go kill the boys then? If you're
I really like Emma. I really like Marie. Andre's growing on me. I didn't really like him in the first episode as much as I did kind of as we got to see the season develop.
He's kind of cocky originally and like
he seemed kind of out of it. I felt like his line delivery in the beginning wasn't that great, but then it got better because I feel like it kind of became his character.
I'm biased to Andre because I really like him, the actor, as Ambrose in The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. He's just like, he's cool. And like, also talking about set design and production, his outfits are so sick. Also, a lot of the outfits are really, I love like Marie's, like, she wears like a trench coat.
Dude, the Golden Boy suit, like just the mock-up drawing,
yeah,
that looked so good though, didn't it?
But doesn't Jordan Lee look really cool too? Especially getting to see Jordan Lee switch genders and like 2 different actors pull off the same outfit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, damn, Jordan looks fire. And then it's like, damn, Jordan looks fire. Like
they are probably my 3rd in the spot.
Yeah, I think,
but I did like Golden Boy. But he's not like a main character anymore, obviously, because he got killed off. But I feel like by the end of the season, if he was in the whole thing, I feel like he would have made it into the top 3 for me.
Here's the thing is, I was initially very disappointed about him dying in episode 1 because I thought his personality was interesting to me, even beyond his powers, because he seemed to be like, he has a lot of pressure on him and that weighs on him and family issues. We
literally like Homelander.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like a good version of Homelander because he seemed like at his core, he seemed like at his core, he was a nice guy.
Yeah.
Because he was like being friendly towards Marie and telling Jordan to like be cool and stuff, you know? So I feel like at his core,
I didn't trust him though.
He was being built up like a nice guy. Well, that's because of the show. Yeah. They make it seem like everybody is too good to be true if they're good. So I feel like he seemed like a cool guy and I was disappointed to not get to know more about his personality, but we're getting a lot of flashbacks. And I think we'll continue to get more flashbacks. So we'll get
we got to see him again in episode 3.
Getting to see him go visit Sam at, I think it's like the Grove.
Yeah.
Something like that. It's something, I have it up here. But I think we will get to see more of the Sage Grove Center. So that's where his brother was before they transitioned him to the woods. But I think we'll get to see more of him for sure. We just probably won't get to see more of his powers. Doesn't seem like that's like the angle of the flashbacks are going to be more like
we might though. I mean,
we'll
we got to see him flame up quite a bit in episode 1, so they're clearly not afraid to use his powers. And I feel like his powers has to be like one of the hardest ones to do.
I just feel like the story won't necessitate it in the flashbacks.
Right.
But as I'm interested to see what his brother's powers are. Speaking of him and his brother both having powers, one thing I want to talk to you about the show, plot wise, is the implications of this show focusing even more so than the boys on basically the abuse that parents enacted on their kids by giving them superpowers without their permission. And whereas some of them love having their powers, some of their powers are really like torturing them in a way, like Marie's kind of do. Definitely Little Cricket or Emma's powers do. The parents seem to wreak a lot of havoc on the life of Jordan Lee. Jordan embraces their powers and they love the two sides to themselves, which is really so cool. Such a beautiful message for people who are gender fluid or LGBTQ plus, like that person accepting themselves, but
or even people who are not, you know, like
just self-acceptance in general.
Right. Like it's okay for a guy to have a feminine side, but still be straight.
Yeah.
You know, like and still be masculine at the same time. Like that's okay.
Yeah. This is something we've talked about before is like, there's a concept of like men not being allowed to be feminine or not allowed to cry or not allowed to like certain things.
Yeah. Like I feel like it's not just for the LGBTQ community. Like it's for everyone.
It's a message for everyone.
Yeah. Like literally just be yourself. And that resonates with me.
But then there's the dark side of that too, of them facing their parents who the mom seems the person that's like, let's just not talk about it, which is it's cool because they display there's two problematic views there. Is there let's just not talk about it? That's not acceptance. Yeah. And then there's the like, why do you do this? You're doing this to spite me. Like, and that just doesn't make sense to me. Like, how could you not love your child? Like, I maybe the dad still loves in a sense, like cares for, I wouldn't say love, but cares for Jordan, but doesn't accept Jordan fully. Doesn't accept the female side that obviously is half of Jordan. Yeah. And it's just that dark side to it is an interesting area to explore and to show like that's something that a lot of people have to struggle with and overcome. So I don't remember how I started talking about Jordan Lee even in the first place, but that is just so damn interesting.
You're talking about three characters that we like the most in this show so far. I think was the last point.
Jordan Lee is my favorite, especially after like the parent episode. It's tough to choose my top three because I do really like Emma a lot, more so like the performance side from Lizzie Broadway. And then I really like Marie and I really like Andre Anderson.
Yeah.
Not that Kate's not cool. Kate's really cool. Golden Boy's really cool, but just those other characters are my favorites. Did you say who your three were?
Yeah, Marie, Emma, and right now Jordan Lee.
And what an eclectic, diverse cast as well. Like a cast like men, women, it's different people of different gender identities, people of different cultures and races. Like that's clearly like a point of the show is like acceptance and all this stuff. But they do a really good job of staying true to that in the writing. I mean,
they do it in like a real world way.
Yeah.
To where like it's in your face, but it's not at the same time. Like it's just real. But then it's like in your face of how like crazy it is that people aren't accepting of this,
Yeah,
it's other people that are different from them.
Yeah, and they highlight it with the superpowers too, which is what I really like about the writing. Yeah. But
because everyone loves superpowers, right? So it's a cool way to talk about this issue in the real world.
I remember where I came from. I came from asking you the question about this show highlighting parents enacting the powers on their children, forcing them to have powers, the children having no say in it. Like, what do you think about that aspect of the show? Because I think it's cool that we get to see the dynamic and relationship between the people with powers and their parents more so since they're college age in the show.
Yeah, it's fascinating. To me, it's like the way that I can relate to it would be like a parent really forcing a kid to go into like sports.
Yeah.
And like from a young age, they're practicing 4 to 6 hours a day, of this specific sport. They're like grinding, they're taking them to all these travel teams. They have to be top of their team and captain on the varsity team in high school. Like, and there's just all this expectation. And a lot of times it's like, yeah, like I want you to do good, but like that contract that you could get could really help the family out, like
it's highlighted especially in Emma's relationship with her mom, Golden Boy's relationship with the school and Brinkerhoff, and Andre's relationship with his dad, because his dad is like push, like,
but it's like
soup.
But even in the sports like analogy, like it can go either way. Like it could be really good for that person, for the kid in that situation, or it could go really bad where the kid ends up spiting the sport, spiting their parents and the life that they're living.
It's whether it's what the kid wants or what only the parents want, I think is the difference between those two paths you're talking about.
But in both cases, like the athlete, like if they're starting 4, 5, 6, even like 10, 12, 13, like how much do they know if they like that or not?
Yeah. Or, if is it baked into me, nature versus nature kind of question?
Right. But then going to the superpowers, like they're also not getting the choice either in most cases. Like it seems like most of these kids that were injected with Gen V didn't ask for it because no one else knew about it, that it was a drug and not just you're born with it.
Yeah, it's crazy that so many parents decided to do this, maybe trying to give their kids a better life or what have you. But a lot of cases, it seems to be parents in these stories trying to live vicariously through their children.
Well, just think about it too, like in this world, like how many people would sign up to take a Gen V drug? So many.
A lot, yeah.
You know,
but
like
in this case,
not thinking about the consequences at all.
Yeah.
You know, like there'd be people lined up. And if it's like, oh, look, we can't give it to you, you're an adult, but we can give it to your kids. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, like,
and the reason it has to go to the kids, just to reiterate from the show's explanation, is that the compound V, the drug, can only like saturate into your body and stay if it's given to them as a baby, an infant, and then like they grow with it. So adults can't actually take the Gen V until season 3 of the show. They come out with Temp V,
right, which lasts for what, like a day, 48 hours, something like that.
Very short amount of time.
Yeah,
but it's a really interesting layer of the show to focus on because the parents are basically choosing to experiment on their kids, and I think it's Kate that says it after Marie unveils like the truth of her past. Kate's like, you didn't do this. Your parents did this. Basically, like, screw them. Like, don't waste a second feeling guilty over them. Because she seems to have like a really contentious relationship with her parents because of Kate unveils that she used her powers unintentionally and sent her brother off into the woods and he was never recovered. So her way of dealing with that guilt is putting it wholly on her parents, which it's not her fault. She was a child. You know,
I liked how they also mocked that too when Jordan Lee's like, yeah, I killed my grandparents. And they're like, no, you didn't.
And he's like, yeah, I just want to be part of the conversation.
Because the fact that Kate had a similar trauma to Marie was like, all right, this is a gimmick, you know? Yeah. And then they like make fun of it that it's a gimmick.
Yeah.
You know, like they're like blatant about their stereotypes or archetypes of like a movie or show.
Because that is a common thing in The Boys in general. I think a lot of people hurt somebody on accident when they got their powers because like they're highlighting the dangers.
A lot of people hurt a lot of people in this world.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's intentional or not.
But in this case, they're giving laser eyes to a baby.
Right.
So like people can get hurt pretty bad.
Yeah. But that's just the like over the top way for us to like connect to it in a way, you know, because it's like, yeah, there's a lot of trauma in my past. Like I can feel it through these characters that are also going through something that's very traumatic as well.
It's just cool how they sensationalize it, but like tie it back to real world stuff, like we talked about with like the biases and prejudices and archetypes of real people. Like they do such a good job, like you said, of making you identify with things that you really shouldn't be able to identify with because they're fantastical and science fiction and all this.
Right. So I have 2 questions. The first one I think I know the answer to. Are you invested in this show?
Oh, hell yeah. More, like you, I was not, I even based off the trailer, I was like, this seems like it could be interesting, but I was like, I'll give it a try because I like The Boys.
Diabolical didn't do very good. So like,
I was not interested. I did not enjoy Diabolical. I tried to watch it.
So like for me, I've already said it, expectations were low. I really haven't been into TV shows lately. I feel like all year, other than The Last of Us, I haven't really watched any shows.
Good. So goddamn good.
But I feel like everything else just didn't meet it, you know? Like, so like, I feel like I haven't watched any new shows and I normally am always kind of on a show or two, you know? Like,
I've been watching a lot more movies too lately, but this is something that I'll be invested in, waiting for Friday every week, excited for the next episode because I've fell in love very early into the first episode.
And we're going to do an episode that recaps like 3 episodes or so. Like we'll do like an episode every other week or so where we're talking about a package of episodes. I think there's 5 left. So maybe we'll do one with 3 and then one with 2.
Yeah.
So we'll be talking about Gen V more, but we won't be in your face every single week talking about it. But with this show coming out, it's kind of getting me excited about TV shows and stuff. It also cements the fact that like Amazon is like at the top of the game right now.
Just, it's not even that many shows either. It's just The Boys,
quality.
Gen V, and Invincible, and like they have a cavalcade of other shows, just not ones that I'm interested. I don't watch Summer I Turned Pretty or like these other shows, but those 3 shows, the production value is so phenomenal.
They also get really good movies on there too. But outside of that, are there any other shows that you're interested in? Because there seems to be a lot of them coming out. We got Loki coming out this week, so it's already would be come out at the time of, or wait, I think it comes out the same day that this episode will drop.
Thursday, I think so as well.
The 5th of October. That comes out soon. They're going to be releasing 1 episode at a time. I believe there's 8 episodes with that. We had what last week was Continental, which is a spinoff from John Wick.
Yeah, I've heard pretty bad reviews. I mean, I think what makes the I'd be interested to watch it. The trailer for the Continental is actually really good.
The trailer looked good.
Period piece setting looks cool. But I think, how do you watch the John Wick universe without Keanu?
Yeah,
like he's Keanu.
That's what I thought I was gonna feel about Gen V. You know, like why do I care about watching something other than the main story in this world? Like, not every world needs to be expanded on this much.
I think the world of The Boys carries a lot of the weight, while Carl Urban and Anthony Starr do carry a lot of the weight for The Boys. But the world is very good.
Yeah.
The John Wick world is straight on the back of Keanu Reeves. Like, Keanu's so good.
Right.
His star power, magnetism is what makes it work.
Right. Is there any other shows that are coming out?
I mean, you don't watch Jujutsu Kaisen, but Jujutsu Kaisen is firing on all cylinders right now. The Shibuya incident arc. If you're not on Jujutsu Kaisen, get on JJK. It's so good.
All right. Yeah, I can't think of anything else that's really like
We're probably
I'm really
I'm sure
excited for.
I mean, Ahsoka. I'm not watching Ahsoka, but
yeah, same. Even though some of the stuff from that did look pretty cool, you know, like
it's one of the best shows. Zach said it's like the best Star Wars show, like for a long time, like since season 1 of Mando or something.
Yeah, it's for me. Whenever I think of Star Wars, I think of Jedi. You know, and it seems like this has Jedi in it.
Yeah, for what they've been missing, maybe with a lot of their shows about like clones and different stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay, that I think kind of wraps up our episode about Gen V. It feels good to be back in the podcast room, Andrew, knocking out another episode. Gen V again comes out every Friday.
Yes.
On Amazon Prime, so you can check it out there. We post new episodes every Monday and Thursday on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So we'd appreciate it if you hit subscribe there. That supports the channel a lot. But then also, if you really like the show, maybe share it with a friend. And then if you have any topic recommendations, let us know in the comments or send us a direct message, and we'll see if we like it enough to do an episode on that topic. Thanks so much, and that's a wrap.
Oh.